Hey everyone, it's Nick. Now, this may come as a bit of a surprise to some of you, but I have done some pretty stupid things in my past. Yeah, I know, it's unfathomable, isn't it? So for today's story time sit-down session, I still haven't decided on a formal name for these things, but for today, I'm going to walk you through the dumbest thing I have ever done in my life. When I lived down in Florida, I spent my weekends fishing. I would take day trips down to this beach and I would just spend maybe like 6 to 8 hours there just fishing, enjoying myself. The beach I went to was not your stereotypical Florida beach. There were no white sands or emerald seas or whatever. This was a bay water area, so the sand was brown, the water was brown, and there were like brambles and trees everywhere instead of, I don't know, ice cream shops or boardwalks or whatever. The difference is, however, is that when you have these like marshy, primitive bay water beaches, you also have a lot of nutrients and untouched wilderness around you. So that's why these places are great for fishing and great for bird watching or just being out in nature. It feels like you're in an entirely different time period. One November morning, I took my friend out fishing to this same beach, and I had caught a big redfish the week before. So I was prepared for big game this time around. I had a 12-foot surf rod, I brought a cast net, and I caught some mullet that are about this big, and I cut them up into pieces. I stuck the head on my hook, and I just threw it out there as far as I could. And then I set my fishing pole into the sand, and I waited. About 2 hours go by, I'm about to pack it up, I'm not getting a single bite, and all of a sudden the rod goes whoosh. This massive fish just takes it and starts running, and naturally I have to grab the pole, I have to like set it against me, I have to like fight this thing. If you fish for a lot of species in a lot of different areas, you know that each fish has like a very like signature method of fighting. Some are dead weights, some try and like surge to the bottom, others just thrash their heads around trying to throw the hook. This thing was just moving. It was like I hooked a freaking car. I didn't even realize it was hooked, that kind of thing. It just kept taking out line, and then I had to take every opportunity I could to like, reel it in, get some yardage back, only for it to take it back out. It was like a protracted back and forth, just stalemate. And during this whole process, I am really like nervous because I know I have never hooked a fish this big. I don't even know what to expect. I don't even know what it is. Just based on how freaking heavy it was, I thought it was like a stingray or something like that. But then about 12 minutes into the fight, I see these triangular fins break the surface, and I know I have just caught the biggest shark of my life. I have only caught like maybe 10-pound sharks before this. This thing was at least the size of me. And so I told my friend to get the camera out and start recording. And well, here's the video. The shark is like pulling me all around the beach. I was walking back and forth. I was actually in the water at some point, which is dumb, but not the dumbest thing I did that day. Because if that shark had knocked me off balance, it would have been dragged into the sea probably, because I would have been too stubborn to let go of the pole. But in time, I tire the fish out and I start bringing it closer and closer to shore, and eventually a swell comes in and just kind of does the rest of the work for me. So I'm able to get a hold of the root of its tail and drag it onto the beach. Now here's where I did another dumb thing, but it's still not the dumbest thing I did that day. You're not supposed to drag sharks of that size onto the beach because the sand particles will cause microabrasions on their stomachs, and that could lead to infections or just injury or just general discomfort. See, the thing is that I had absolutely zero experience like big shark fishing before this happened. So the only like context I had was YouTube videos where I saw these, big muscle-bound guys with these reels that are like the size of shoe boxes, bringing in these like 10-foot sharks onto the beach, like, screaming, going, woo, that kind of thing. So, in my mind, with my adrenaline pumping, I thought that I was one of those guys, but yeah, in the moment, you have no idea what you're doing, but you look back on it and you think, oh my God, like what is wrong with you, man? So this was only a few weeks after a hurricane. I think it was Hurricane Andrew. I'm going to correct myself if I'm wrong. And you can see there's a kind of a trough that was created, literally like 2 feet to my left, and that would have been the perfect place to drag the shark, because not only would there have been less like microabrasions, but also the shark would have had a constant source of water going into its gills, and therefore would have been less uncomfortable being dragged out of the ocean. You know, it's another one of those things where it's like your adrenaline's pumping and you have no idea what anything is around you. It's the things that you notice only if someone had a camera rolling. The other thing I want to highlight is that I shouldn't have done this at all with this specific shark, because in Florida, sharks are classified into 3 groups, and most of the sharks found in off-Floridian waters belong in group 3. Group 3, you absolutely cannot take the shark out of the water. You have to make sure the release is as quick as possible, and that means keeping it in the water and cutting the line. I didn't know this at the time. I only learned about it maybe like a month afterwards when I was doing some research. This is a sandbar shark. Sandbar sharks are group 3 according to the FWC. So that is a mistake that I genuinely like feel bad about. And spoiler alert, you know, the shark was fine. I put it back. But I still think about what I could have done differently, and it does kind of make me a little ill sometimes, but I know that that was in the past. I've learned my lesson. I haven't made that mistake since. You know, knowledge is power, as they say. But still, that's not the dumbest thing I did that day. So here I am just marveling at this freaking monstrosity that I have pulled out of the ocean, and me being like this stingy, like adrenaline pumped, like, you know, 20-year-old guy that I am, I just wanted my hook back. I didn't want to damage my tackle. So what do I do? What do I do exactly? Well, I do this. And I'm just going to pause the video right there. Don't ever do this, okay? I just did the equivalent of shoving my hand into an industrial meat grinder that could have gone off at any minute. I could have lost like my hand and part of my arm that day based on this. I wasn't even using a proper pair of pliers. I was using a multi-tool that I had won after selling popcorn in Cub Scouts. Oh, I still like think about what could have happened that day. That was the dumbest thing I did that day, and that remains to this day the dumbest thing I've ever done. Putting my hand that close to a shark that was the size of me. I was asking for it. I really was. See, sharks are a lot better than us in a lot of respects, and one of those areas is agility and unpredictability and, you know, the sheer instinct to fight back. If that shark wanted to like flip its head around and sink its jaws into my wrist, it could have. Sharks can also like distend their jaws a bit. That's kind of like how they're able to kind of snap a fish. Their jaws can literally go like this, like from their heads, like that. And, you know, the distance my hand was from the jaws, that could have very easily happened as well. But I don't know. Maybe God was looking down upon me that day. Or maybe this was a very old male shark that just got tired from the fight, because the fight went on for like maybe 15 minutes total. I mean, you could tell he's a big old male. I mean, look at these claspers, man. Those are some Ron Jeremy fucking claspers if I've ever seen them in my life. This is a shark that has seen some shit. What would have happened if I had lost a hand that day? I wouldn't be able to write as effectively. I wouldn't be able to make these crazy freaking gestures I've been doing the whole video. If you're ever in the situation that I was in, which I know sounds kind of silly to talk about because, like, why would 99.9% of you even be in the situation that I was in? There are tools for this intended purpose, such as a fish clamp like this. You know, my grandfather saw the video that my friend took and he got me that fish clamp for Christmas, actually, because he said that I needed it. There are more hands-off tools, like specifically for big toothy fish you can also use. Or better yet, just cut the line as close to the hook as you can. The hook will rust out of the shark's mouth within like a week or two, and during that week or two, it'll just be like kind of like a piercing, I guess. You know, they're not really bothered by this. They're sharks. If they can survive the KT extinction, they can survive a piece of metal in their mouths. But thank God my guardian angel fish was working overtime that day, because I did manage to successfully get the hook out without injury, and after that I was able to quickly and successfully get the shark back in the water. I dragged it back into the sea. It was kind of difficult because the sand was actually pretty shallow for a good chunk of the way out into open water. So the shark was kind of like getting stuck again, and the swell was pushing it back in. So I had to kind of like push it. I had to kind of like put my arms underneath it to try and like lift it into open water, which I guess is another dumb thing that I did that day. But no, eventually we were both able to find our footing. He swam off, as you can see, and I walked away from that enthralled, terrified, but enlightened. Now, would I do this again? Hell yes. This was a defining moment in my life. This gave me such an appreciation for nature, for sharks, for fishing. This experience directly inspired a scene in my novel Hell's Gulf, which you should totally pick up if you haven't already. So yes, I would do it again, but this time with the knowledge and the foresight that I had gained in the years since. And that was the dumbest thing I've ever done. Take care. I'll see you all next time.